The cardboard box felt heavier than it should. Daniel Hart stood in the 15th floor conference room of North Star Dynamics, watching snow pile against the windows, while Vivian Reed, the company's new chief operating officer, slid a severance packet across the polished table. "Effective immediately," she said. Her voice was steady, professional. "Cold. 6 years." Daniel had given this company 6 years. Late nights debugging code while his daughter slept at his sister's house. Weekends sacrificed. Promotions earned through competence, not politics. And now this stranger, who'd been COO for barely 6 months, was ending it all with a signature. "Can I ask why?" Daniel's throat felt tight. Vivian's fingers trembled slightly as she straightened the papers. "Restructuring. Your position has been eliminated. My entire team reports record efficiency. The decision is final, Mr. Hart." She wouldn't meet his eyes. That struck him as odd. Corporate executioners usually maintained eye contact, some power move they taught in management seminars. But Vivian Reed stared at the severance agreement like it might catch fire. Daniel stood, legs unsteady. He picked up the box containing his desk photos, his daughter's crayon drawings, the coffee mug that said, "World's okayest dad." The security guard waited by the door. No chance to say goodbye to colleagues. No farewell email. Just the long walk to the elevator, the silent descent, and the revolving door spitting him into the Chicago winter. The snow had intensified. Fat flakes swirled in the wind tunnels between skyscrapers, turning Michigan Avenue into a white blur. Daniel stood on the sidewalk, briefcase in one hand, box in the other, watching his breath crystallize in the air. He looked up at the North Star building. 42 stories of steel and glass, now closed to him forever. That's when he saw her. 18th floor, corner office. A woman stood at the window, silhouetted against the interior lights. Blonde hair, the particular way she held her shoulders, slightly hunched, as if carrying invisible weight. Aurora. The box slipped from Daniel's hands. It hit the sidewalk, scattering its contents across the snow. His daughter's school photo landed face up, already accumulating white crystals. But Daniel couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Aurora had been dead for 5 years. He'd held her hand in the ICU while the machines beeped their futile protest. He'd identified her body. He'd stood in Oakwood Cemetery while they lowered her casket into frozen ground. He'd answered his 3-year-old daughter's questions about where Mommy went, why she wasn't coming home, why the sky was crying. But that woman in the window, a taxi honked. Daniel stumbled backward, nearly falling. When he looked up again, the window was empty. His hands shook as he gathered the scattered items. Photo frames cracked, papers soaked through. He shoved everything back into the box and pushed through the revolving door. "Sir, your badge has been deactivated," the security guard said. "I need to get back up." "I'm sorry, you'll need to. Please." Daniel's voice cracked. 18th floor. Just for a minute. The guard's expression softened slightly. "Who are you trying to reach?" The COO. "Vivian Reed." "Miss Reed's office is on 15, sir. She doesn't have access to 18. That's executive private offices." Daniel stood there, snow melting into his collar, while people streamed past him into the warm lobby. He looked at his reflection in the polished granite wall. 34 years old, dark circles under his eyes. The jacket Aurora had helped him pick out for his first day at North Star, now 6 years old and fraying at the cuffs. He was losing his mind. Grief did strange things. 5 years wasn't enough to stop seeing her everywhere, in grocery stores, on sidewalks, in passing cars. His therapist called it persistent complex bereavement disorder, said it was normal for widowers with young children. But this felt different. Daniel pulled out his phone and typed Vivian Reed North Star Dynamics into the search bar. The company website loaded slowly on the spotty connection. There, executive team page. Chief Operating Officer, appointed 6 months ago. Stanford, MBA. Previous experience at venture capital firms in San Francisco. He clicked her photo to enlarge it. His phone slipped, nearly hitting the marble floor. Same blonde hair, same high cheekbones, same slight asymmetry to the smile, left corner pulling higher than the right. Even the way she tilted her head in the professional headshot, like she was listening to something just out of frame. Not similar. Identical. "Sir, I need to ask you to leave if you're not checking in with someone." Daniel walked back into the snow. His car was parked 3 blocks away. He made it halfway before stopping, turning back to stare up at the building. The woman appeared in the window again. 18th floor. She pressed one hand against the glass. Even from this distance, even through falling snow, Daniel could see her face clearly. It was Aurora's face, and she was crying. The nightmares had stopped, mostly. 3 years of therapy, medication adjustments, mindfulness exercises, Daniel had done the work. He could think about Aurora now without his chest tightening, could look at their wedding photos without needing to leave the room. But standing in his apartment that night, holding the photograph from his destroyed box, the old grief returned with physical force. December 14th. 5 years ago. The worst winter storm Chicago had seen in a decade. Aurora had been driving home from her shift at the Children's Hospital where she worked as a pediatric nurse. Chloe was with Daniel's sister. They'd planned a quiet evening takeout, a movie, early to bed. Daniel had gotten the call at 6:47 p.m. Black ice on the Kennedy Expressway. Her Honda Civic had spun across 3 lanes before the semi-truck hit. The driver never saw her. Couldn't have stopped even if he had. Daniel remembered running through Northwestern Memorial's hallways, remembered the doctor's hand on his shoulder, remembered Aurora's face when they let him into the ICU. So pale, breathing tube down her throat. Machines doing the work her body couldn't. "She can probably hear you," the nurse had said gently. So, Daniel talked. About Chloe's preschool graduation that morning. About the snow falling outside. About the trip to Wisconsin they'd planned for Christmas. He told her he loved her. Told her Chloe loved her. Told her to fight. At 11:23 p.m., her heart stopped. They'd tried to restart it. Daniel stood outside the room, listening to the chaos, the urgent voices, the high-pitched alarm of the flat line. A doctor emerged 20 minutes later, still wearing blood-stained gloves. "I'm so sorry." The funeral had been 4 days later. Daniel chose a white casket. Aurora had loved white, cleast, hopeful. The cemetery workers had to use a backhoe to break through the frozen ground. 47 people came, despite the weather. Colleagues from the hospital. Friends from college. Daniel's family. Chloe had worn her princess dress. She'd stood next to her father, holding his hand with fierce determination, and asked when Mommy would wake up. "She's not sleeping, baby," Daniel's sister had said gently, "but her eyes are closed. How do you explain death to a 3-year-old? Daniel had knelt in the snow, held his daughter close, and said the only thing that felt true. "Mommy went somewhere we can't follow, but she loves you very much. She'll always love you." Chloe had thought about this. Then, is she cold? That question had broken something in Daniel. He'd sobbed there in the cemetery, while his daughter patted his head with her small hand, telling him it was okay, Daddy, it's okay. The grief had been unbearable. Daniel stopped eating, stopped sleeping. Went through the motions, changing diapers, reading bedtime stories, going to work while feeling nothing inside. A therapist diagnosed severe depression with traumatic grief, prescribed antidepressants, recommended a support group. Slowly, painfully, Daniel had climbed out of the pit. For Chloe's sake, she needed a parent, not a ghost. He'd packed away Aurora's clothes after the first year, donated them to the hospital's staff exchange, kept only a few items, her favorite sweater, her wedding ring, the necklace she wore every day. By year 3, he could say her name without crying. By year 4, he could imagine being happy again someday. By year 5, he thought he'd healed. Now, standing in his living room with snow falling past the window, Daniel understood he'd only learned to live with the wound. It had never actually closed. He opened his laptop and pulled up the photo from North Star's website. Vivian Reed. Born in 1988, the bio said. Same year as Aurora. Graduated Stanford 2010. No mention of family, hometown, personal life. Daniel zoomed in on her face. The mole. Aurora had a small mole just below her left ear. He'd kissed it 10,000 times. In this photo, Vivian's hair covered that spot, but when Daniel enhanced the image, adjusted the contrast. There, same mole, same exact position. His hands were shaking. He opened a new browser tab and typed, "Adoption, separated twins, Chicago." Thousands of results. He refined the search. Identical twins separated at birth reunion. Stories filled the screen. Twins adopted by different families, raised in different states. Meeting decades later, discovering they had the same laugh, same gestures, same medical histories. Aurora had been adopted. She'd told Daniel early in their relationship. She'd never known her birth parents, never tried to find them. Her adoptive parents, loving, supportive, were her real family. She had no interest in searching for biological connections. But she'd never mentioned a twin. Daniel pulled out the folder he kept in his desk drawer. Aurora's important documents. Birth certificate, social security card, nursing license. He found what he needed. The amended birth certificate issued by Illinois after her adoption. Original birth date, the 3rd of March 1988. Place of birth, Hennepin County, Minnesota. Original name, Aurora Elizabeth. Redacted. Birth parents, redacted. That was it. The adoption agency had sealed the original records. Aurora's adoptive parents might have known more, but they'd both passed away, her mother from cancer when Aurora was 25, her father from a stroke 2 years later. Daniel stared at the document until the letters blurred. If Aurora had a twin sister. If that sister had been adopted separately. If she'd somehow found out about Aurora, tracked her down, arrived too late. The probability seemed impossible. But that face. That exact face. Outside, the snow continued falling. Chicago's streetlights turned the flakes orange gold. Daniel watched them swirl and drift, remembering another snowy night 5 years ago. Remembering the phone call that had shattered his world. His phone buzzed. Text from his sister. "Chloe's asleep. Asking about Mommy again. Says she saw her at the park today. Thought you should know." Daniel's blood went cold. Morning came gray and heavy. Daniel had barely slept. At 6 a.m., he gave up pretending and made coffee, standing at his kitchen window watching the city wake up. Snowplows scraped the streets. Early commuters trudged through fresh powder. His phone showed 17 missed calls from HR. The severance package required his signature within 48 hours. After that, they'd withhold his final paycheck, his accrued vacation pay, his 401k match. He should care about this. Should be panicking about mortgage payments, Chloe's preschool, tuition, health insurance. Instead, he kept seeing that woman in the window. That face. At 8 a.m., he called North Star's Human Resources Department. "This is Jennifer speaking. How can I help you?" "Hi, Jennifer. This is Daniel Hart. I was terminated yesterday, and I have some questions about—" "Oh, Mr. Hart. Yes, we've been trying to reach you. Do you need us to email the documents again?" "No, I have them. I wanted to ask about Vivian Reed." A pause. "I'm sorry? The COO, who signed my termination. How long has she been with the company?" "Mr. Hart, I can't discuss other employees. I'm not asking for confidential information. Just basic facts. Please." Another pause. Daniel heard typing. "Miss Reed joined North Star 6 months ago, appointed by the board after our previous COO retired. Where did she come from?" "I really can't. It's public information, Jennifer. It's on LinkedIn. I'm just asking you to confirm what's already posted online. A sigh. Previous position was Managing Director at Apex Ventures in San Francisco, Stanford MBA. Before that, various consulting roles. Is there anything else? Does she have family in Chicago? Mr. Hart, that's definitely not something I can share. Right? Sorry. Thanks for your time. He hung up and opened LinkedIn. Vivian Reed's profile showed exactly what Jennifer had described. Professional headshot, that face again. 342 connections. Work history going back to 2010. Education at Stanford. Undergraduate degree from Northwestern in Chicago, where Aurora had also gone to college. Daniel clicked on her education history. Northwestern University, class of 2010. Bachelor's in Economics. Aurora had been there 2006 to 2010. Nursing program. They would have been on campus at the same time. Daniel's coffee went cold in his hand. If they'd crossed paths. If Aurora had seen someone who looked exactly like her. But Aurora had never mentioned it. And she would have. Something that significant, seeing your doppelganger at college, you'd tell your husband. Unless she'd never noticed. Big campus, different programs, different social circles. Or unless Vivian had been using a different name. Daniel searched for Vivian Reed Northwestern 2010 but found nothing beyond her LinkedIn. No yearbook photos, no campus newspaper mentions, no club memberships. He tried a different approach. Opened Facebook, typed Vivian Reed. Hundreds of results. He filtered by location Chicago and scrolled through profiles. No matches. Instagram. Twitter. Nothing. For someone with a high-powered corporate career, Vivian Reed had remarkably little social media presence, almost like she'd scrubbed herself from the internet, or like she'd changed her identity. Daniel pulled up Illinois Public Records. Typed Vivian Reed name change into the court database search. Access denied, needed to pay for premium service. He grabbed his credit card. $37 for a week's access. The search loaded slowly. Results populated the screen. 3. Vivian Reed's in Illinois. 1 age 72. 1 age 19. 1 age 36. The 36-year-old. Name legally changed from Victoria Ann Morrison to Vivian Elizabeth Reed. The 15th of March 2020. Just 5 years ago. 6 months after Aurora died. Daniel's vision swam. He had to read it 3 times to believe it. Victoria Morrison. Changed her name to Vivian Reed. The middle name, Elizabeth Aurora's middle name. He ran a search for Victoria Morrison. Found an old MySpace page, abandoned since 2008. Profile photo too small and degraded to see clearly. Listed hometown. Duluth, Minnesota, where Aurora's birth certificate said she was born. Hennepin County, Minneapolis adjacent. Duluth was 2 hours north. The pieces were falling into place, but they formed a picture Daniel couldn't quite comprehend. He needed more information. Needed access to birth records, adoption files, anything that could prove what he was beginning to suspect. His phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Daniel Hart? A woman's voice. Not Vivian's, this one was older, raspy. My name is Patricia Hoffman. I'm an attorney with Rothstein and Associates. I represent Miss Vivian Reed. I'm calling to request that you cease all attempts to contact my client. Daniel's stomach dropped. I haven't contacted her. You called the company's HR department this morning asking questions about her. You've been searching for her personal information online. Miss Reed considers this harassment. I was just... Any further attempts to contact Miss Reed, directly or indirectly, will result in legal action, including a restraining order. Do you understand? She looks exactly like my dead wife. Silence on the line. Then, I don't know what you're talking about. Aurora Hart. She died 5 years ago. Your client could be her twin sister. Mr. Hart, I'm going to give you some advice. Sign your severance agreement. Take your payout. Move on with your life. Do not pursue this matter further. Why did she fire me? That's confidential. She couldn't even look at me. During the termination meeting, she stared at the paperwork like Daniel stopped. Understanding crashed over him. She knows who I am. This conversation is over. Tell her I just want to talk. 5 minutes. That's all. The line went dead. Daniel sat in his apartment while the day grew brighter outside. Snow melted on windowsills. Icicles dripped from the eaves. He pulled out his phone and opened the photo album. Found the folder labeled Aurora, scrolled to their wedding day. Aurora in her white dress, laughing at something off camera. The photographer had caught her mid-turn, veil floating around her shoulders, pure joy on her face. Daniel enlarged the image, studied every detail. The slight gap between her front teeth, the way her nose wrinkled when she smiled, the exact shade of her hair, not quite blonde, not quite light brown, honey-colored, she'd called it. He opened Vivian Reed's LinkedIn photo in another window, held the two images side by side. Identical. Not similar, not reminiscent. Identical. What happened to you? He whispered to the image of Vivian. How did you find out about her? Why are you here? His phone buzzed. Text from his sister. Chloe's school called. She's having a hard day. Can you pick her up early? Daniel looked at the clock. 10:47 a.m. He had time before he needed to leave. He pulled up the Illinois birth records database. Typed in Aurora's information. Birth date, county, year. Access denied. Sealed adoption records. He tried Minnesota. Same result. There had to be another way. Private investigators could unseal records with proper legal justification. Genetic genealogy websites might find biological family connections. Or his phone buzzed again. Another text from his sister. Actually, Chloe's asking for the pretty lady from the park. The one who helped her find her ball yesterday. Says she looked like Aurora. Daniel? What's going on? Daniel's hands went numb. Yesterday. While he was at work. While Chloe was at the park with her aunt. Vivian had been there. Vivian had approached his daughter. Chloe sat on the couch, eating apple slices and watching Daniel with solemn eyes. She was 5 now, no longer the toddler who didn't understand death. Old enough to remember her mother in fragments. A voice singing lullabies, hands braiding hair, the smell of vanilla perfume. Tell me about the pretty lady, Daniel said gently. Chloe's legs swung, not quite reaching the floor. At the park. My ball rolled away and she got it for me. What did she look like? Like Mommy. Chloe said it simply. Matter of fact. Aunt Sarah said it wasn't Mommy. But she looked the same. Daniel's sister had been apologetic when he'd called. I didn't think it was important. Chloe's ball rolled near a woman on a bench. The woman picked it up, handed it back. I barely looked at her. I was watching the other kids on the slide. But Chloe got very quiet after, kept staring. Did the woman say anything? Daniel had asked. Not to me. Maybe to Chloe. I don't know. Now, Daniel knelt in front of his daughter. Did the pretty lady talk to you? Chloe nodded. She asked my name. I said, Chloe. She cried a little. Then Aunt Sarah called me and I had to go. Did she say her name? No. But she was sad, Daddy. Like you when you look at Mommy's pictures. Daniel pulled his daughter into a hug. She smelled like apple juice and the lavender detergent he used on her clothes. So small, so vulnerable. If Vivian had approached Chloe deliberately, but maybe it had been chance. A woman in the park, a ball rolling nearby, a natural interaction. Except Vivian would have recognized Chloe. would have known exactly who this child was. After tucking Chloe into bed that night, Daniel sat at his laptop and did what he'd been avoiding. He pulled up the photos from Aurora's funeral. He didn't look at these often. They hurt too much. But he needed to see something specific. There. Third row of mourners. A woman in a dark coat, standing apart from the crowd, face partially obscured by a black umbrella. Daniel enlarged the image, zoomed in until the pixels started breaking apart. The woman was crying, but she wasn't looking at the casket. She was looking at Daniel. He checked the timestamp. The photo was taken at 11:47 a.m., just as the service began. Daniel ran facial recognition software, a free app he'd used before to organize old photos. Processing. Match probability, 94%. Subject: Vivian Reed, via LinkedIn profile photo. Daniel's vision blurred. He stood, paced to the window, stared out at the snow-covered street. Vivian had been at Aurora's funeral 5 years ago, before she changed her name, before she moved to Chicago, before she joined North Star Dynamics. She'd been there, watching from a distance, while Daniel buried his wife. The implications made his head spin. If she'd known about Aurora then, if she'd known they were twins, why hadn't she approached Daniel? Why wait 5 years? Why take a job at his company, then fire him? His phone buzzed. Email from an unknown address. Subject line: I'm sorry. Message body: Mr. Hart, you deserve an explanation. I can't give you one in writing. If you're willing to meet, I'll answer your questions. Tomorrow. Millennium Park. 2 p.m. Near the ice rink. I understand if you don't come. I understand if you think I'm insane. But I'm Aurora's sister, and I need to tell you what happened. Daniel read the email 3 times. It could be a trap, a lawsuit waiting to happen. Patricia Hoffman, the attorney, had explicitly warned him not to contact Vivian. But this was Vivian contacting him. He typed a reply. I'll be there. Deleted it. Typed. How do I know you're really her sister? Deleted that too. Finally, I'll bring Chloe. He hesitated, cursor hovering over the send button. Was it safe? Was he putting his daughter at risk? But Chloe had already met Vivian, had already called her the pretty lady, and if Vivian meant them harm, she'd had opportunities. Daniel hit send. The reply came instantly. Thank you. I promise I'll explain everything. He didn't sleep that night. Lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to Chloe's soft breathing through the baby monitor. At 3 a.m., he got up and pulled out the box of Aurora's belongings he kept in the closet. Her wedding ring, her stethoscope from the hospital, the journal she'd kept sporadically, mostly filled with doodles and grocery lists. He opened to a random page. Aurora's handwriting round, careful letters. March 3rd, 1990. My 2nd birthday. Mom made chocolate cake. I ate so much I threw up. She says I was worth it. Her adoptive mother. Loving, patient. Daniel flipped forward. Found an entry from 2008. Sometimes I wonder about my birth parents. Not because I'm unhappy, Mom and Dad are perfect, but just curiosity. What did they look like? Why did they give me up? Do I have siblings somewhere? But then, I think, does it matter? The family you choose is more important than the family you're born into. And I chose this one. She'd underlined chose 3 times. Daniel's throat tightened. Aurora had been happy, had felt complete. She'd never needed to find her biological family. But somewhere, a sister had been searching. At 7 a.m., Daniel made breakfast. Pancakes, Chloe's favorite. She stumbled into the kitchen in princess pajamas, hair a mess. We're going somewhere special today, Daniel said. Where? The park. To see the pretty lady again. Chloe's eyes went wide. Really? Really? But Chloe, I need you to understand something. Daniel knelt down. The lady looks like Mommy. But she's not Mommy. Mommy is gone. This lady is different. Okay? Chloe thought about this seriously. Is she Mommy's sister? Maybe. We're going to find out. Does she know Mommy went to heaven? The question hit Daniel in the chest. Yes, sweetheart. She knows. Is that why she was sad? Chloe nodded. Okay. Can I bring Mr. Whiskers? Mr. Whiskers was a stuffed cat Aurora had bought at the hospital gift shop. Chloe slept with it every night. Of course. The hours until 2 p.m. crawled by. Daniel tried to work on job applications, updating his resume, but couldn't focus. He kept checking the weather. The snow had stopped, but temperatures remained below freezing. The park would be crowded ice skaters, tourists, families. Safe, public. At 1:30, he bundled Chloe into her winter coat. Pink, puffy, with a hood that made her look like a small marshmallow. She clutched Mr. Whiskers. I'm scared, Daddy. Me too, baby. But it's going to be okay. The drive downtown took 40 minutes through slushy streets. Daniel parked in the Grant Park garage and walked with Chloe toward Millennium Park. The bean, that giant chrome sculpture, reflected distorted images of the skyline. Tourists took selfies despite the cold. The ice rink was moderately crowded. Skaters circled in lazy loops. Children clung to the rails. Rental booth doing steady business. Daniel scanned the crowd. There. On a bench near the warming house, Vivian Reed sat alone, hands folded in her lap, watching the skaters. She wore a cream-colored coat and dark jeans. Hair pulled back in a ponytail. Even from this distance, the resemblance to Aurora was staggering. Chloe's hand tightened in Daniel's. That's her. I know. They approached slowly. Vivian saw them coming. Stood up. Her face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Hope, fear, grief. Something that might have been love. Hi, she said softly. Hi, Daniel replied. Chloe stared up at Vivian with wide eyes. Vivian's composure cracked. Tears spilled over. Oh my God. You look just like her. Just like Aurora when she was little. How do you know? Chloe asked. Vivian pulled something from her coat pocket. A photograph, old and faded. She knelt down, holding it so Chloe could see. 2 toddlers. Identical. Maybe 2 years old. This is me, Vivian said, pointing to the child on the left. And this is your mommy. Daniel took the photo with shaking hands. On the back, written in pencil, Victoria and Aurora, 14 months. Last photo before separation. Chloe touched the image gently. Mommy was a baby. Yes, Vivian whispered. And we were best friends, even though we were too young to remember. She looked up at Daniel. I can prove it. I have birth certificates, DNA tests, adoption records, everything you need to verify. I believe you, Daniel said. Vivian's breath caught. You do? I saw you at the funeral, 5 years ago. A sob escaped her. I was too late. I found her 3 months after she died. Spent 2 years tracking down records, following leads. By the time I knew where she was already gone. I came to the cemetery, saw you and Chloe. Wanted to introduce myself, but I couldn't. Thought I'd make it worse. Why did you fire me? The question hung in the frozen air. Vivian wiped her eyes. Because every time I saw you, I saw what I'd lost. The life she had, the family, the happiness. And I couldn't. Her voice broke. I couldn't be in the same building without wanting to tell you who I was. But I thought you'd hate me. Thought you'd blame me for not finding her sooner. Daniel felt something shift in his chest. Grief and anger and understanding all tangled together. I don't hate you, he said quietly. Vivian looked at him with Aurora's eyes. I have so many questions. About her life, about who she was. I have these fragments adoption records, old school photos I tracked down, her nursing school application. But I don't know her. The real her. Chloe tugged on Vivian's coat. I know, Mommy. Vivian smiled through tears. Will you tell me about her? She made good cookies. And she sang songs. And she was warm. She was, Daniel agreed. She was warm. They stood there in the cold while skaters circled and the city hummed around them. Daniel looked at this stranger who wore his wife's face, who'd been searching for a sister she never got to know. There's a lot to explain, he said finally. About Aurora, about us, about what happened. Vivian nodded. I know. And I'll tell you everything about me. Where I grew up, how I found out about her, why I changed my name. All of it. Why did you change your name? Because Victoria Morrison felt like someone else's life. When I discovered I had a twin named Aurora, I wanted to honor her. Vivian is close to Victoria. Elizabeth was her middle name. Reed. She hesitated. Reed was the name of the family that almost adopted us both. Before they decided one baby was enough. The pain in her voice was raw. Chloe held up Mr. Whiskers. This was Mommy's. You can hold him if you're sad. Vivian took the stuffed cat with reverent hands, pressed it to her chest. Thank you, she whispered. Daniel made a decision. We're going to get coffee, somewhere warm, and we're going to talk. For as long as it takes, okay? Vivian looked at him with desperate hope. As they walked toward the warming house, Chloe slipped her free hand into Vivian's. Don't cry, she said seriously. Mommy wouldn't want you to be sad. Vivian squeezed her hand gently. Your mommy was very smart. I think you're just like her. Daddy says I have her nose. You do. It's a very good nose. Daniel watched them together, his daughter and his wife's lost sister, and felt the grief that had lived in his chest for 5 years shift into something new. Still painful, still hard, but maybe, possibly, beginning to heal. The warming house cafe was crowded, but they found a table in the corner. Daniel ordered hot chocolate for Chloe, coffee for himself, tea for Vivian. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 5 years pressing down on them. Where do we start? Vivian asked finally. The beginning, Daniel said. Tell me about your life. Vivian wrapped her hands around the tea mug. I was adopted by the Morrisons when I was 18 months old. Good people. A farmer and a school teacher in Duluth, Minnesota. They told me I was adopted when I was 7. Said my birth mother couldn't care for me. That was all they knew. The adoption was closed. Did you have a good childhood? Lonely. I was an only child in a rural area. Closest neighbor was 3 miles away. I spent a lot of time reading, imagining I had siblings somewhere. My adoptive mother died when I was 16. Car accident. My adoptive father couldn't cope after that. Drank himself to death within 2 years. I was 18, legally an adult, but basically alone. Chloe looked up from her hot chocolate, mustache of foam on her upper lip. That's sad. It was, Vivian agreed. But I worked hard, got scholarships, went to Northwestern for college. Daniel leaned forward. You were in Chicago. Aurora was in Chicago. I know. I think about that constantly. We were on the same campus for 4 years. We might have passed each other in the library, stood in line together at the coffee shop. We could have been friends and never known we were sisters. When did you find out about her? Vivian's hands trembled. 6 years ago. I was 28, working at a consulting firm in San Francisco. Felt empty despite career success. Ordered a DNA test from one of those genealogy websites. You know, the ones they tell you your ancestry, match you with relatives. And you found Aurora? Not directly. I found a second cousin. She helped me trace back to our birth mother, Teresa Novak. Lived in Minneapolis. I flew out to meet her. Daniel's breath caught. Aurora's birth mother? She was alive? Is alive. Still lives there. She's 63 now. Does she know Aurora died? Vivian nodded, eyes bright with tears. I told her. It destroyed her. She'd given us up because she was 17, unmarried, living in poverty. Thought we'd have better lives with families who could provide for us. Spent 30 years wondering if she'd made the right choice. Then I show up and tell her one of her daughters is dead. What did she say? That she'd tried to find us when we turned 18. But the adoption agency had strict closed record policies. She'd spent years filing petitions, hiring lawyers, hitting dead ends. By the time I found her, she'd given up hope of ever meeting us. Chloe tugged on Daniel's sleeve. "Is that my grandma?" The question hung in the air. Daniel didn't know how to answer. Vivian knelt down to Chloe's level. "She would love to meet you someday. If that's okay with your daddy. Her name is Teresa. She has your mommy's eyes. I want to meet her," Chloe said simply. Daniel felt overwhelmed. 6 years of being Chloe's only parent, making every decision alone. Now suddenly there was biological family, history, connections he'd never known existed. "Let's take this slow," he said carefully. "Vivian, you said you found out about Aurora 6 years ago, but she died 5 years ago. What happened in that year?" Vivian sat back down. "I tried to find her. Teresa gave me what little information she had, the adoption agency's name, approximate location of Aurora's adoptive family. I hired a private investigator. It took 8 months. When he finally found her address, I bought a plane ticket immediately. Flew to Chicago. Was going to knock on her door that weekend, but I got scared. What if she didn't want to meet me? What if she already had a full life and I was just an intrusion? I sat in my rental car across from your house for 3 hours, trying to gather courage." Daniel's skin prickled. "Which house?" "We moved 4 years ago. The brick one in Lincoln Park." "With the blue door?" "That was right. The house where Aurora had lived, where Chloe had taken her first steps." "What did you do?" Daniel asked. "I drove away. Told myself I'd reach out later, when I had the right words. I flew back to San Francisco, planned to write a letter, something she could read in private, respond to on her own terms. But you didn't send the letter. I spent 2 months writing and rewriting it. Never found words that felt adequate. How do you introduce yourself to your identical twin? How do you explain 30 years of absence?" "So, what happened?" Vivian's voice dropped to a whisper. "I saw the obituary. I'd set up a Google alert for her name. December 15th, 5 years ago. Chicago Tribune. Aurora Elizabeth Hart, age 28, died suddenly. Survived by her husband Daniel and daughter Chloe. Services at Oakwood Cemetery." Her tears fell freely now. "I flew back immediately. Went to the funeral. Saw you standing there with Chloe. Saw how destroyed you were. And I thought, I don't belong here. I never knew her. I have no right to this grief. You had every right." "Did I? She was your wife. Chloe's mother. You had years with her. I had nothing. Just a DNA test and a photograph of 2 babies in a bathtub." Daniel reached across the table, stopped just short of taking her hand. "She would have wanted to know you. How can you be sure? Because Aurora believed in family. She would have welcomed you. Would have been thrilled to discover she had a sister." Vivian pressed her hands to her face. When she spoke again, her voice was muffled. "I changed my name 3 months later. Moved to Chicago. Took a job in venture capital. Started building a new life. Tried to get close to the life Aurora had lived. Joined her gym. Shopped at her grocery store. Walked the routes she probably walked. That's why you took the job at North Star. I found out you worked there from your LinkedIn profile. I told myself it was just coincidence, that the COO position was a good career move. But the truth is, I wanted to be near someone who'd known her, who'd loved her. I thought maybe I could understand her through you. Why didn't you just introduce yourself?" "Because I didn't know how you'd react. And because..." She looked at Chloe, then back at Daniel. "Because seeing you hurt. Every time I saw you in the office, I thought about what Aurora had, what I'd never have. a family, a husband, a child. The life I could have shared with her. Chloe had been listening quietly. Now, she said, you can share it now. The simple logic of a 5-year-old. Devastating in its clarity. Vivian smiled through tears. I don't want to intrude. You're not intruding, Daniel said firmly. Your family. The word hung between them. Family. I have boxes of information, Vivian said. Birth records, medical history, photos of Teresa, letters she wrote to us before giving us up. I thought maybe you'd want them. For Chloe, so she knows where she came from. I want to see everything. They talked for 2 more hours. Vivian told them about growing up in Minnesota, about her lonely teenage years, about working her way through college. Daniel told her about Aurora, her terrible cooking, her infectious laugh, the way she'd sing off-key in the shower, how she'd wanted 3 more children, how she'd talked about opening a pediatric clinic in an underserved neighborhood. Chloe added details. Mommy made the best pancakes. And she read stories with different voices. And she wasn't scared of spiders. I'm terrified of spiders, Vivian admitted. Mommy would catch them and put them outside. She was braver than me. As the afternoon wore on, Daniel watched Vivian interact with Chloe. Saw how she leaned in when Chloe spoke, giving the child her full attention. How she laughed at Chloe's jokes, how naturally she moved, like Aurora had moved. But there were differences, too. Aurora had been effusive, warm, always touching hand on your arm, fingers in your hair. Vivian held herself more carefully, maintained more personal space. Aurora had talked fast, words tumbling over each other. Vivian spoke slowly, choosing each word with precision. Same face, same DNA, different people. At 5 p.m., Chloe yawned. I'm hungry. We should go, Daniel said. Vivian stood, hesitated. Can I? Would it be okay if I saw you again? I don't want to pressure you, but if you're willing. We're willing, Daniel said. More than willing. I'll give you my number. My real number, not the work one. They exchanged phones, entered contact information. When Vivian handed Daniel's phone back, her fingers brushed his. Thank you, she whispered. For not hating me. I could never hate you. Outside, the temperature had dropped further. The sun was setting, painting the sky pink and gold behind the skyline. Chloe walked between them, holding both their hands. Look, Daddy, she said, pointing at their shadows on the snow. We're a family, 3 shadows, 2 tall, 1 small, moving together across the frozen park. Daniel looked at Vivian, saw tears on her cheeks, crystallizing in the cold. Yes, he said quietly. Vivian's apartment was not what Daniel expected. He'd imagined something corporate, sterile, the kind of space that comes with high-powered executive positions. Instead, when she opened the door 3 days later, he found himself in a converted loft in Wicker Park, all exposed brick and warm lighting. Come in, she said. I made coffee. Chloe had stayed with Daniel's sister. This conversation needed to happen between adults first. The apartment was sparsely furnished but personal. Bookshelves lined one wall, novels, business books, true crime. A yoga mat in the corner. Plants on the windowsill, thriving despite the winter. And photos, dozens of them. Daniel approached slowly. The largest frame sat on a side table. The bathtub photo of baby Aurora and Victoria. Next to it, a more recent picture, Teresa Novak, holding that same photo, tears streaming down her face. That was taken 2 weeks after I found her, Vivian said from behind him. She'd kept 1 copy of that photo for 30 years, hidden in her dresser. Looked at it every birthday, wondering where we were. She looks like Aurora, and like me. It's strange seeing where we came from. Other photos showed Vivian's life. Childhood in Minnesota, graduation from Northwestern, receiving some business award. But interspersed were images Vivian couldn't have taken herself, screenshots from Facebook, printed from digital files. Aurora and Daniel's wedding. Chloe as a newborn. Family photos from Christmas, birthdays. Random Tuesday afternoons. How did you get these? Daniel's voice came out strained. Vivian's face flushed. I'm not proud of it. After the funeral, I may have created a fake Facebook profile. Friended your sister. She posts a lot of family photos publicly. I saved them. It should have felt like a violation. Instead, Daniel understood the desperation behind it. The need to see your sister's life, even in digital fragments. Did you want to be her? He asked. Or did you want to know her? Both. Neither. I don't know. Vivian sat on the couch, pulled a throw pillow into her lap. Every photo I saw made me happy and angry at the same time. Happy she'd had love. Angry I'd missed it. Does that make sense? Daniel sat across from her. The apartment was quiet except for the radiator hissing. I brought the DNA results, Vivian said. She retrieved a folder from her desk. I know you said you believed me, but I wanted you to have proof. For Chloe's sake, for medical history. The documents were official, notarized, genetic testing from 3 separate companies, all confirming the same thing. Vivian Reed, née Victoria Morrison, and Aurora Hart, née Aurora Novak, were identical twins. 99,9% DNA match. Also in the folder, Teresa Novak's birth certificate for her daughters. Hospital records from Abbott Northwestern in Minneapolis. A social worker's notes about the adoption placement. We were born at 2:37 a.m., Vivian said. Aurora first, then me 14 minutes later. We weighed the same 6 pounds, 3 ounces, perfectly healthy. Teresa held us for 2 hours before they took us away. Did she want to give you up? No. But she was 17, homeless, addicted to drugs. She'd gotten clean during pregnancy but knew she couldn't raise twins alone. The adoption agency convinced her it was the kindest choice. Were you adopted together initially? Vivian's jaw tightened. For 3 months. A couple named Reed, David and Margaret took us both as foster placement. They were wealthy, lived in Lake Forest. The plan was to adopt us together. But then Margaret got pregnant. Unexpected, after years of infertility. They decided they only wanted one adopted child, plus their biological baby. Jesus, they chose Aurora. I don't know why. Maybe she smiled more. Maybe she slept better. Maybe it was completely arbitrary. The social worker took me back at 3 months old, placed me with the Morrisons a month later. Daniel thought about those 4 months. 2 babies together, then torn apart. Did Aurora know? Did her adoptive parents tell her she'd had a twin? I don't think so. The Reeds divorced when Aurora was 5. Margaret got custody, moved to Chicago. She remarried when Aurora was 8, became Margaret Hart. Aurora took her stepfather's last name. I knew about the stepfather. Good man. Died when Aurora was in nursing school. I found Margaret 3 years ago. She's in Arizona now, remarried again. I sent her a letter explaining who I was. She never responded. Maybe she felt guilty, or maybe she just didn't care. Some people compartmentalize. They sat in silence. Outside, snow began falling again. Chicago's endless winter. Teresa wants to meet Chloe, Vivian said quietly. She's asked several times, but I told her it's your decision. She knows she has no legal claim. She's just a grandmother who never got to meet her daughter and wants some connection to what's left. What's she like? Quiet. Sad. Sober now for 25 years. Works at a library. Lives in a small apartment with 2 cats. She cried for 3 hours the first time I met her. Kept apologizing, saying she'd failed us. She was a child herself. I know. I told her that. Told her I understood. But I don't think she's forgiven herself. Daniel thought about Chloe. How she'd asked about grandparents before. Daniel's parents had both passed, his mother from breast cancer, his father from a heart attack. Aurora's adoptive parents were gone too. Chloe had aunts and uncles, but no grandparents. "I need to think about it," he said finally, meeting Teresa. "It's a lot for Chloe to process." "Of course, there's no rush. Can I ask you something? Why did you really fire me?" Vivian stood, walked to the window. "I told you. Seeing you was painful. That's not the whole truth." She pressed her forehead against the glass. "No, it's not. Tell me." "Because I was falling in love with you." The words dropped like stones. "I'd been watching from a distance for so long," Vivian continued. "Through photos, through your sister's social media, I saw how you raised Chloe alone, how you worked full-time and still made her birthday parties, still read bedtime stories, still braided her hair even though you were terrible at it. I saw you grieving and functioning and surviving, and I thought that's the kind of person Aurora deserved. That's the kind of father Chloe needs." Daniel couldn't speak. "Then you started working at North Star. I'd see you in meetings, watch you solve problems, mentor junior employees, make terrible jokes in the break room. And it stopped being about Aurora, started being about you. I'd find excuses to walk past your desk, memorized your schedule, knew when you brought lunch from home and when you ordered out. Vivian, I know it's wrong. You're my sister's widower, Chloe's father, off limits in every possible way. But I couldn't control it. Couldn't stop thinking about you. So I made the board restructure your department and eliminate your position. It was the only way I could get you out of my life before I did something stupid." She turned to face him. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It was cruel and unfair, and you deserved better. But I didn't know what else to do." Daniel stood slowly, crossed the room, stopped a foot away from her. "I need to tell you something too." Vivian's eyes were red. "Okay. The first time I saw you in the termination meeting, I thought I was hallucinating. Thought grief had finally broken my brain. Then, when I realized you were real, that you were Aurora's sister, I told myself I wanted to meet you for Chloe's sake, so she could know her family. But that's not the only reason. I wanted to meet you because when I saw you in that window, when I saw your face, I felt something I hadn't felt in 5 years. Hope." Vivian's breath caught. "Not because you look like Aurora," Daniel continued, "but because you're proof that there's more to the story, that Aurora's life didn't end in that hospital. That part of her continues in you. In Teresa, in this whole history I never knew existed. Daniel, I'm not in love with you. I don't know you well enough for that. But I want to know you. Want Chloe to know you. Want to build something, friendship, family, whatever shape it takes." Vivian wiped her eyes. "I gave up your job. I'll find another job. I made you think you'd done something wrong. You can help me update my resume. I stalked you on social media. I've Google stalked you approximately 40 times in the last week." A wet laugh escaped her. "This is insane. Completely insane." They stood there, not quite touching, while snow accumulated on the windowsill. "I don't want to replace Aurora," Vivian said softly. "I never want Chloe to think I'm trying to be her mother. You couldn't replace Aurora if you tried. You're not her. You're you. I'm a stranger who looks like her dead mother. That has to be confusing. We'll figure it out. Together. All three of us." Vivian took a shaky breath. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "What was she like? Really like? Not the obituary version, not the perfect memory. The real person." Daniel smiled. "She was terrible at cooking. Burned everything. We had smoke alarms going off twice a week. She sang off-key in the shower and didn't care. She cried at every Pixar movie, even the bad ones. She'd leave cabinets open and drawers half closed. Drove me crazy. She'd wear my t-shirts to bed and stretch them out. She was chronically late to everything except work. She'd forget to return phone calls but remember every random fact you told her 6 months ago." Vivian was crying and smiling at the same time. She was impatient with herself, Daniel continued. When she couldn't do something perfectly immediately, she'd get frustrated. But she was endlessly patient with everyone else, with sick kids at the hospital, with me when I was stressed about work, with Chloe always, no matter how many times she asked why. She sounds wonderful. She was human, flawed, and wonderful. Like everyone, thank you for telling me. There's more. So much more. Stories and moments and tiny details. I'll tell you all of it. Whatever you want to know. Vivian reached out, hesitated. Daniel closed the distance, pulled her into a hug. She froze for a moment, then melted into it, sobbing against his shoulder. He held her while she cried for the sister she'd never known, for the years she'd missed, for the complicated grief of losing someone you'd never had. When she finally pulled back, her face was blotchy, her eyes swollen. I must look terrible, she said. You look like someone who needed to cry. She laughed weakly. I've been holding that in for 5 years. I know the feeling. They sat back down, this time on the same couch, a respectful distance between them. What happens now? Vivian asked. Now we figure out how to be a family, whatever that means. I don't know how to be a family. Neither do I. I'm making it up as I go, but we'll figure it out together. Vivian pulled a throw blanket over her legs. I'd like to meet Teresa first. Before Chloe does, make sure she's ready. That's smart, and I'd like to stay in Chloe's life. Not as a parent, but as she searched for words. As Aunt Viv? Daniel suggested, remembering the text from his sister, Aunt Viv. Vivian tested the name. I like that. She already calls you the pretty lady. This is an upgrade. Setting the bar low, I see. They smiled at each other. It felt strange and right at the same time. I should go, Daniel said, though he didn't want to. Chloe will be wondering where I am. Okay. But Daniel? Can we do this again? Just talk? How about dinner? You, me, and Chloe. Nothing fancy. Pizza and bad movies. I'd like that. At the door, Vivian caught his arm. I'm glad you found out. About me. About all of this. Even though it's complicated, me too. And Daniel? I'm going to fix the job thing. I'll talk to the board, get your position reinstated, or find you something better. You don't have to. Yes, I do. I was wrong to fire you. I need to make it right. He nodded. Thank you. Outside, the snow was falling harder. Daniel walked to his car through the quiet streets, feeling lighter than he had in years. His phone buzzed. Text from Vivian. Thank you for giving me a chance. I won't waste it. He replied. You're family now. Family doesn't waste chances. They just keep showing up. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally. I'll show up, I promise. Daniel drove home through the snowy city, past the park where he'd met Vivian, past the hospital where Aurora had died, past all the landmarks of his grief. But tonight, for the first time in 5 years, the grief felt different. Still there, still heavy. But now it had company. Hope, confusion, possibility, and maybe, eventually, healing. The videos started simply. Daniel had mentioned them during one of their coffee meetings, hours of home movies stored on an external hard drive. Aurora making dinner, Chloe's first steps, Christmas mornings, random Tuesday afternoons. I haven't watched most of them, he'd admitted. Too hard. Would you let me see them? Vivian had asked quietly. I understand if... Yes, come over Saturday. So, on a cold Saturday afternoon, Vivian arrived at Daniel's apartment with groceries for dinner and a box of tissues. Chloe was delighted to have Aunt Viv over, though she spent the first hour showing off every toy, book, and drawing she owned. This one is a dragon, Chloe explained, holding up a scribbled mess of purple and orange. He's nice. He only eats vegetables. A vegetarian dragon, Vivian said seriously. Very progressive. Daniel watched them together from the kitchen. The resemblance to Aurora was still startling, but he was getting used to it, learning to see the differences. Vivian moved more carefully, spoke more softly. Aurora had filled rooms with her energy. Vivian seemed to shrink slightly, making herself smaller. After dinner pasta that didn't burn, a minor miracle, Chloe settled on the couch with her iPad while Daniel and Vivian sat at the laptop. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. "No. But I need to see her. Need to know who she was." Daniel opened the first file. Aurora, 8 months pregnant, attempting to assemble a crib. The video shook with Daniel's laughter as she read the instructions upside down, insisted she was doing it correctly, then eventually threw up her hands and demanded ice cream instead. Vivian smiled through tears. She was stubborn. God, yes, incredibly stubborn. They watched video after video. Aurora giving Chloe a bath, both of them covered in bubbles. Aurora attempting to braid her own hair and failing spectacularly. Aurora reading to Chloe in different character voices, a squeaky mouse, a gruff bear, a melodramatic princess. She was good with voices, Vivian said. She should have been a voice actor. That was her secret dream. She'd practice accents in the car. Another video. Aurora and Daniel dancing in the kitchen to music only they could hear. She stepped on his feet, laughed, kissed him, spun away. Vivian made a sound, half laugh, half sob. "Do you want to stop?" Daniel asked. "No, please, keep going." The next video was from Christmas, 3 years ago. Aurora wearing a ridiculous reindeer sweater, opening presents with Chloe. She'd gotten a stethoscope necklace from Daniel, a joke gift, since she already had a professional one. But she'd gasped like it was diamonds, put it on immediately, worn it the rest of the day. She loved Christmas, Daniel said, started decorating the day after Thanksgiving. Made gingerbread houses that always collapsed, insisted on watching every cheesy holiday movie. What was her favorite? Elf. She could quote the entire thing. They watched until Chloe fell asleep on the couch, clutching her stuffed cat. Daniel carried her to bed while Vivian remained at the laptop, scrolling through files. When he returned, she was watching a video of Aurora making pancakes. Burning them, actually. Smoke filled the kitchen while she waved a dish towel at the smoke alarm, laughing the entire time. She really was terrible at cooking, Vivian said. The worst. But she tried. Every weekend, she'd attempt a new recipe, and every weekend, we'd end up ordering takeout. Did it bother you? No. It was endearing. She was brilliant at so many things. She saved kids' lives for a living. Not being able to cook seemed like a fair trade. Vivian paused the video on Aurora's face, mid-laugh, eyes crinkled, mouth open. She looks happy. She was. Despite everything, losing her parents young, the stress of work, the general chaos of life, she chose happiness. Deliberately chose it. I wish I'd known her. I wish you had too. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Vivian said, "Can I tell you about Victoria? The girl I was before I changed my name. Please." She was quiet, scared of everything, had panic attacks in crowds. Couldn't maintain relationships because she always expected people to leave. She worked constantly because work was safe, predictable. Numbers and spreadsheets don't abandon you. What changed? Finding out about Aurora. Realizing I'd spent 30 years being half of something. Wondering if I'd been different. Braver. Happier if we'd grown up together. I changed my name because I wanted to be someone new. Someone who might have existed if we hadn't been separated. Do you regret it? Sometimes. It feels like I erased Victoria. Like I killed her to make room for this new person. You didn't kill her, you evolved. That's different. Vivian smiled sadly. You're kind. I'm honest. She closed the laptop. I brought something. I wasn't sure if I should show you, but... She pulled a photo album from her bag. This is from Teresa. My birth mother. She's been keeping it for 30 years. Newspaper clippings, photos she found online, anything related to Aurora. Daniel opened the album carefully. The first page showed Aurora's college graduation announcement from the Northwestern newspaper. Aurora in cap and gown, beaming at the camera. Teresa saw this in an alumni magazine, Vivian explained. She'd been searching for us for years. When she saw Aurora's name and photo, she knew immediately, kept every mention she could find after that. More pages. Aurora's wedding announcement in the Tribune. Aurora receiving an award at the Children's Hospital. A feature article about young nurses making a difference. She's very proud, Vivian said, even though she never got to tell Aurora that. The last page held Aurora's obituary. Teresa had highlighted certain passages. Beloved wife, devoted mother, compassionate nurse. She wants to meet Chloe, Vivian said again. But I told her we'd wait until you were ready. Daniel thought about this. About Chloe gaining a grandmother. About Teresa finally meeting the granddaughter she'd never known existed. What's she like with kids? I don't know. She never had other children. But when I showed her Chloe's photo, she cried. Said she looked exactly like Aurora at that age. Do you have a picture of Teresa? Vivian pulled out her phone. Showed him a photo of a thin woman with graying blonde hair and Aurora's eyes. She stood in a library, surrounded by books, smiling tentatively at the camera. She looks kind, Daniel said. She is. Broken, but kind. Okay. Set up a meeting. But somewhere, public first. Let them meet casually, see how it goes. If Chloe's comfortable, we can talk about more regular visits. Vivian's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. She'll be so happy. One condition. Anything. You have to be there too. All of us together. That's the only way this works. Vivian nodded. Deal. Over the next few weeks, they developed a rhythm. Vivian came over twice a week for dinner. She was learning to braid Chloe's hair, though her attempts were clumsy. She read bedtime stories in her own voice, not trying to imitate Aurora's character work. She brought small gifts, books, art supplies, nothing excessive. Chloe started calling her Aunt Viv without prompting. Started including her in drawings of my family. Started asking when Aunt Viv was coming over next, and slowly, carefully, Vivian started to relax, started taking up more space, started laughing more easily. One night, after Chloe was asleep, they sat on Daniel's couch with wine and leftover Chinese food. I went to Aurora's grave, Vivian said quietly. Last week. I hope that's okay. Of course it's okay. Did it help? I don't know. I talked to her, told her about meeting you and Chloe, about Teresa wanting to meet her granddaughter. I apologized for not finding her sooner. What did you want to say to her, if she could answer? Vivian thought about this. I wanted to ask if she ever felt incomplete, if she sensed something was missing, if she dreamed about me the way I dreamed about her. I think she did, Daniel said. She used to have these vivid dreams about a girl who looked like her. She'd wake up crying sometimes, not knowing why. I wonder now if that was you, some twin connection she couldn't explain. I dreamed about her too, about both of us in a bathtub, laughing. I thought it was just my imagination creating what I wished existed. Maybe it was a memory. From before you were separated. We were 3 months old. Can babies remember that far back? Maybe twins can. They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the city hummed. Sirens in the distance. Wind rattling windows. I'm scared, Vivian admitted. Of what? That I'll wake up and this will be gone. That you'll realize how strange this is and push me away. That Chloe will grow up and resent me for looking like her mother, but not being her mother. That's not going to happen. You can't promise that. No. But I can promise I'll try. We'll all try. That's all family is, people who keep trying even when it's hard. Vivian leaned her head on his shoulder. Not romantic, just seeking comfort. Thank you for showing up. They sat like that until the wine was gone, and the food was cold, talking about Aurora, about Teresa, about the strange shape their family was taking. And for the first time since Aurora's death, Daniel's apartment didn't feel empty. It felt like home. The realization came slowly, then all at once. It was March, 3 months since they'd met in the snow. Chloe's 6th birthday was approaching. They'd planned a party at the Children's Museum. 12 kids, pizza, cake, the usual chaos. Vivian had taken the day off work to help set up. She arrived at Daniel's apartment at noon with decorations and an elaborate mermaid cake she'd somehow managed to bake successfully. "You made this?" Daniel stared at the cake. Fondant scales, sugar pearl decorations, edible glitter, YouTube tutorials. Lots of them. "I may have stayed up until 2 a.m. getting the tale right. Vivian, this is incredible." She flushed with pleasure. Chloe said mermaids were her favorite. "I wanted it to be special." Watching her carefully place 6 candles on the cake, Daniel felt something shift in his chest. Not grief, not nostalgia, something new. The party was controlled chaos. Kids ran in circles. Someone spilled juice. The museum's automatic dinosaur exhibit scared 2 children into tears. But Chloe was radiant, wearing a princess dress and a paper crown, declaring it the best birthday ever. When they sang Happy Birthday, Vivian stood next to Daniel, their shoulders touching. Her voice was soft but steady, and when Chloe made her wish and blew out the candles, Vivian's eyes were bright with happy tears. Later, after kids had been picked up and decorations packed away, the 3 of them sat in Daniel's living room eating leftover cake. "Thank you, Aunt Viv," Chloe said seriously. "This was perfect." "You're welcome, sweetheart. Are you going to be at my birthday every year?" Vivian glanced at Daniel. "If your dad says it's okay." "Of course it's okay," Daniel said. "Your family." After Chloe went to bed, Vivian helped Daniel clean up. They worked in companionable silence, washing dishes, folding tablecloths. "You didn't have to do all this," Daniel said. "The cake, the decorations, taking the day off. I wanted to. I missed every birthday Aurora had. Every Christmas, every milestone. I'm not missing Chloe's." She said it, matter-of-factly. But Daniel heard the pain underneath. "You're a good aunt," he said. "I'm trying to be." They finished cleaning. Vivian gathered her coat and purse. "Daniel, can I ask you something personal?" "Sure. Do you ever think about dating again?" The question caught him off guard. "Sometimes." "Why?" "My friend set me up on a blind date next week. I wasn't sure if I should go. Felt weird, with everything happening with you and Chloe. Didn't want to complicate things." Something cold settled in Daniel's stomach. "You should go." "Really? Why wouldn't you? You deserve to be happy. It feels strange. Like I'd be betraying Aurora somehow. Aurora would want you to live your life, to find love. All of it." Vivian smiled sadly. "You're probably right." "Okay, I'll go." She left. Daniel stood at the door for a long time after, trying to identify the feeling in his chest. Not jealousy. He had no right to jealousy, but something close to it. Over the next week, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about Vivian's date. He told himself it was normal to be protective. She was family now. He cared about her well-being, but when she texted after the date, it was fine. He was nice. Probably won't see him again. Daniel felt disproportionately relieved. This is wrong, he told himself. She's Aurora's sister. Off limits, inappropriate. But the feelings didn't care about logic. He started noticing small things. How Vivian laughed at his terrible jokes. How she remembered his coffee order. How she'd started keeping a toothbrush at his apartment for the nights she stayed late with Chloe. How she looked in the morning light when she helped make breakfast. Hair messy. Wearing one of Daniel's oversized sweatshirts because she'd gotten cold. She was beautiful. Not just because she resembled Aurora. Beautiful in her own right. In the careful way she listened, in her quiet competence, in the gradual unfolding of her personality as she learned to trust them. Daniel knew he was in dangerous territory. One evening, after Chloe was asleep, they sat on his balcony despite the cold. The city spread below them, all lights and movement. "I met with Teresa last week," Vivian said. "We're still planning the introduction to Chloe. Maybe next month? That works. How is she?" "Nervous. Excited. She's knitting Chloe a blanket. It's terrible, all crooked and full of dropped stitches. But she's trying so hard. Chloe will love it because it's from her grandmother." Vivian pulled her jacket tighter. "Can I ask you something? And will you be honest? Always. Do you wish it was Aurora sitting here instead of me?" The question hung between them. "Yes and no," Daniel said finally. "I miss her every day. Wish she could see Chloe growing up. Wish I could tell her about my day. All the things you miss about someone you love. But you're not a replacement. You're your own person. And I'm grateful you're here. Not because you look like Aurora, because you're Vivian." She was quiet for a long time. Then, "I'm falling in love with you." The words dropped like stones into still water. "I know I shouldn't," she continued. "I know it's complicated and messy and probably wrong. But I can't help it. You're kind and patient, and you make terrible dad jokes. You love Chloe more than anything. You've let me into your life even though I turned it upside down. And her voice cracked. "I can't stop thinking about you." Daniel's heart hammered. "Vivian, I'm not asking you to feel the same way. I just needed to tell you. Needed to be honest." He should shut this down. Should explain why it couldn't work. Should protect both of them from the inevitable complications. Instead, he said, "I feel it too." Vivian's breath caught. "I've been trying not to," Daniel continued. "Telling myself it's transference, or grief, or just gratitude for giving me back a piece of Aurora. But it's not any of those things. It's you. The way you braid Chloe's hair even though you're terrible at it. The way you bring coffee without being asked. The way you laugh at my stupid jokes. The way you're slowly becoming yourself around us. What do we do? I don't know. This is complicated. Because of Aurora. Because of everything. You're her sister. Chloe needs stability, not romantic confusion. If this goes wrong, we can't just walk away. We're family now. I know. I've thought about all of that." They sat in silence. Below them, the city continued its endless movement. "I don't want to rush this," Daniel said finally. "Don't want to mess up what we're building. Neither do I. But I don't want to pretend I don't feel this either." Vivian turned to look at him. In the dim light from the apartment, she looked like Aurora and nothing like her simultaneously. "What do you suggest?" "Slow, careful, honest. We keep showing up for Chloe, keep being family, and if this feeling doesn't go away, we deal with it then." "How long?" "I don't know. Months? A year? However long it takes to be sure." Vivian nodded slowly. "Okay. We wait. We build the family first, and if it's still there after everything settles, then we talk about it again. Deal." They shook hands solemnly, then laughed at the absurdity of it. "This is the weirdest relationship negotiation I've ever had," Vivian said. "You've had weirder?" "Fair point." They went inside. At the door, Vivian hesitated. "Can I?" She stopped. Started again. "Never mind." "What? Can I hug you?" "Not as family, not as Aurora's sister, just as me." Daniel opened his arms. She stepped into them, and for a moment they just stood there, holding each other in the quiet apartment. She fit differently than Aurora had. Taller by half an inch. Thinner. Held herself more rigidly at first, then gradually relaxed. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For being honest. For not shutting me out. Thank you for being brave enough to say it." They pulled apart. Vivian grabbed her coat and bag. "I'll see you Saturday?" she asked. "Chloe's already planning the menu. Let me guess. Chicken nuggets and mac and cheese?" "She's very sophisticated." Vivian smiled. At the door, she paused. "Daniel, I'm glad you found me, even though it's complicated." "Me too." After she left, Daniel stood in his living room for a long time. He pulled out his phone, opened to Aurora's photo. "I hope this is okay," he whispered to the image. "I hope you'd understand." His phone buzzed. Text from Vivian. "I meant what I said. About waiting. About being patient. However long it takes," he replied. "I know. Me too." Then, because he couldn't help himself. "But for the record, I'm glad it's you." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. "Me too." "Good night, Vivian." He looked at Aurora's photo one more time, then put the phone away. Some loves, he was learning, made room for new ones. Didn't replace them, just expanded to include them. It was terrifying. It was also, possibly, the beginning of healing. Spring came late to Chicago that year. March bleeding into April, snow lingering stubbornly before finally surrendering to warmer days. Chloe's birthday had passed. Teresa's meeting with her granddaughter had gone better than anyone expected. They'd chosen the Lincoln Park Zoo on a sunny Saturday. Chloe had approached Teresa with the fearlessness of a 6-year-old, announced, "You look like Mommy too," then grabbed her hand and dragged her to see the penguins. Teresa had cried quietly, gripping Chloe's small hand like a lifeline. Now, 2 months later, they gathered at Oakwood Cemetery. All of them. Daniel, Chloe, Vivian, and Teresa. The first time they'd all visited Aurora's grave together. The headstone was simple. White marble, like the casket. Aurora Elizabeth Hart. Ijo Baba Dao Arling Ijo. Beloved wife. Mother. Nurse. Her light continues. Someone had left fresh flowers, Daniel's sister, probably. The grass was newly green, dotted with dandelions. Chloe set down the drawing she'd made. Aurora, as an angel, wings spread wide, surrounded by hearts. "Hi, Mommy," she said, seriously. "I brought everyone to meet you." "Well, you already know, Daddy, but this is Grandma Teresa and Aunt Viv. They're your family, too." Teresa knelt beside Chloe, placed a hand on the headstone. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry I gave you up. Sorry I couldn't protect you. Sorry I never got to tell you how proud I am." Vivian stood apart, arms wrapped around herself. Daniel moved beside her. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "I don't know. Is it strange that I'm grieving someone I never met?" "No. You lost the possibility of her. That's worth grieving too." Vivian pulled an envelope from her pocket. "I wrote her a letter. Is it okay if I read it?" "Please." She unfolded the paper. Her hands shook slightly. "Dear Aurora," she began. "I don't know if you can hear this. I don't know if any of it matters now. But I need to say it anyway. I'm your sister, your twin. We shared a womb, shared the first 3 months of life, then got separated. I didn't know about you until 5 years ago. By then, you were already gone. I'm angry about that. Angry at the adoption system, at the Reeds for choosing you over me, at fate for cruel timing. But I'm also grateful, because even though I never knew you, you gave me a gift. You gave me Daniel, and Chloe, and the chance to be part of a family. I see you in them, in Chloe's stubbornness, in Daniel's patient kindness, in the way they love without reservation. I want you to know that I'll take care of them. Not because I'm trying to replace you, I could never do that, but because they're all I have left of you, because loving them is the only way I know how to honor you. I wish we'd had time, wish we'd grown up together, shared secrets, fought over clothes, all the things sisters do. But we didn't get that. So I'm choosing to believe that this right now is what we were meant for. Me taking care of the family you left behind. You watching over all of us. I hope that's okay. I hope you'd approve. I love you, sister, even though I never knew you, maybe especially because I never knew you." Silence settled over the cemetery. Birds called from nearby trees. Wind rustled through new leaves. Chloe tugged on Vivian's sleeve. "That was pretty, Aunt Viv." Vivian wiped her eyes. "Thank you, sweetheart." Teresa stood slowly, joints creaking. "She would have loved you. Both of my girls, so different, so special. I wish." She couldn't finish. Daniel put a hand on her shoulder. She knew she was loved. By her adoptive parents, by me, by Chloe. She died knowing love. That's something. Is it enough? It has to be. They stood together in the spring sunshine. A year ago, Daniel had stood at this grave alone with Chloe, drowning in grief. Now he was surrounded by people imperfect, complicated people who were choosing to be family. "Can I say something?" Chloe asked. "Of course, baby." Chloe put her small hand on the headstone. "Mommy, you don't have to worry about Daddy and me anymore. We have Aunt Viv and Grandma Teresa now. We're not alone, so you can rest, okay?" The simple wisdom of a child. Daniel's throat tightened. Vivian knelt beside Chloe. "Your mommy is very proud of you. You know that, right?" "How do you know?" "Because if I had a daughter like you, I'd be proud every single day." Chloe thought about this. "Are you going to stay? Forever? If your daddy says it's okay?" "It's okay, right, Daddy?" Daniel looked at Vivian, at the woman who'd turned his life upside down, who'd brought back pieces of the past while opening doors to the future. "Yeah, sweetheart. It's more than okay." They left flowers and drawings, whispered private goodbyes. Walking back to the cars, Teresa fell into step beside Daniel. "Thank you," she said. "You have every right. You're Chloe's grandmother, Aurora's mother. That's not erased by adoption. The social workers told me I was doing the right thing, giving you girls a better life. I believed them. You were 17. You made the best choice you could. It wasn't enough. It was enough. Look at what Aurora became. A nurse who saved lives, a mother who loved completely, a wife who made me happier than I thought possible. That's your legacy too." Teresa's eyes filled. "Do you really believe that?" "I do." They reached the cars. Teresa hugged Chloe goodbye, promised to visit next weekend. She drove away in her old Honda, back to the life she'd rebuilt from grief. Vivian lingered. "Can I talk to you? Just for a minute?" "Of course. Chloe, go pick some dandelions. We'll make wishes." Chloe ran off happily. Vivian and Daniel sat on a bench overlooking the cemetery. "I've been thinking," Vivian said, "about what we talked about. On your balcony." Daniel's pulse quickened. "And? I don't want to wait anymore." "Vivian, I know we said we'd be slow, careful. But life is short, Daniel. Aurora taught me that. She never got to grow old, never got to see Chloe graduate or get married. We don't know how much time we have. I don't want to rush this and mess it up. Neither do I. But I also don't want to waste time being scared. I love you. And I think you might love me too." Daniel looked at her. Really looked. At Vivian, not Aurora's ghost. At this careful, damaged, brave woman who'd inserted herself into his life and refused to leave. "I do," he admitted. "I love you. It terrifies me. Because, what if it doesn't work? What if we try this, and it fails, and we lose the family we've built? What if it does work? What if we could actually be happy? Is that allowed? After everything? Why wouldn't it be?" Daniel thought about Aurora, about her fierce belief in choosing happiness, about how she'd want him to live, not just survive. Aurora used to say that love doesn't run out, that you can love multiple people in different ways and it doesn't diminish any of them. She was right. I still love her. That's not going to change. I know. I love her too, in my way. Loving me doesn't erase her. Chloe's my priority. Always. I know that too. I'm not asking to replace Aurora as her mother. I just want to be part of her life. Part of your life. Daniel took Vivian's hand. Her fingers were cold despite the warm day. "If we do this," he said slowly, We have to be honest with Chloe. Tell her the truth in age-appropriate ways. Let her have feelings about it, even if those feelings are complicated. Agreed. And we go slow with the physical stuff. I need time to adjust to thinking of you as not Aurora. I understand. And if it doesn't work, if we realize we're better as family than as a couple, we don't let it destroy what we've built. We stay in each other's lives for Chloe's sake. Deal. They sat in silence, hands linked, watching Chloe gather dandelions in the distance. I'm scared, Daniel admitted. Me too. But I want to try. Me too. Vivian leaned her head on his shoulder. Not Aurora's gesture, but her own. Daniel wrapped an arm around her. When do we tell Chloe? She asked. Soon. But not today. Today was about Aurora. Let's give her that. Okay. Chloe ran back with a fistful of dandelions. I made wishes. Do you want to know what they are? Aren't wishes supposed to be secret? Vivian asked. Not all of them. One wish was for ice cream, and one wish was for Aunt Viv to stay forever, and one wish was for Mommy to be happy in heaven. Daniel pulled his daughter onto his lap. Those are very good wishes. Are they going to come true? He looked at Vivian. She looked back with Aurora's eyes but her own heart. Yeah, baby, he said. I think they might. That night, after Chloe was asleep, after Vivian had gone home with a promise to return tomorrow, Daniel stood in Chloe's doorway and watched his daughter sleep. On her nightstand, the photo of Aurora holding newborn Chloe. Next to it, a new photo from the zoo visit Chloe, Vivian, Teresa, and Daniel. All smiling. All together. I hope this is okay, Daniel whispered to Aurora's photo. I hope you'd understand. I'm not forgetting you. I'm just trying to be happy again, trying to give Chloe a full life. The photo didn't answer. But in the quiet of the apartment, Daniel felt something settle. Not closure, grief didn't close, but acceptance. Permission to move forward while carrying the past. His phone buzzed. Text from Vivian. Thank you for today, for everything. I know this is complicated, but I think it might be worth it. He typed back, It is worth it. You're worth it. Then, after a pause, We're worth it. 3 dots appeared. Then, yes, we are. Good night, Vivian. He put the phone away and climbed into bed. For the first time in years, he didn't reach for Aurora's pillow, didn't curl around the empty space she'd left. Instead, he thought about tomorrow. About coffee with Vivian while Chloe did homework. About Teresa's next visit. About the family they were building from grief and hope. Outside, spring rain began to fall. Gentle, washing away the last of winter's salt and grime. Inside, Daniel fell asleep thinking about the future. And for once, the future didn't feel empty. It felt like possibility. 1 year later, Millennium Park on a Sunday afternoon in March. The ice rink was closed for the season, but the park hummed with early spring energy. Families with strollers, couples holding hands, street musicians playing for spare change. Chloe, now 7, ran ahead on the path, chasing pigeons. Her braids, expertly done by Vivian, that morning bounced with each step. Daniel and Vivian walked behind her, fingers interlaced. A simple gold band on Vivian's left hand caught the sunlight. Can you believe it's been a year? Vivian asked. Since the cemetery? Since everything. Since I stopped being a stranger who fired you and became this. My fiancé who fired me. That's quite an evolution. She elbowed him gently. I got you a better job. That should count for something. True. Head of development at Horizon Tech is significantly better than senior developer at North Star. See? I'm useful. They stopped near the spot where they'd first met the bench by the closed ice rink. Someone had carved initials into the backrest since then. DH plus VR inside a heart. Chloe did that, Vivian said, noticing his gaze. Last month when I brought her here. Said she was making it official. Making what official? Us. The family. She wanted it marked down. Daniel smiled. She's very practical. Wonder where she gets that. Chloe ran back, breathless. Can we go see Grandma Teresa later? She's expecting us at 4. Vivian confirmed. She made cookies, probably burned them. Grandma always burns cookies, Chloe agreed cheerfully. But they taste good anyway. She ran off again, toward the bean. She's happy, Daniel observed. She is? Are you? Daniel considered this. Yeah. No reservations? Some. I still have moments where I feel guilty. Like I'm betraying Aurora by being with you. I have those too. Then I remember what you said, love doesn't run out. Aurora would like you, if she'd known you. You think? Definitely. You're both stubborn, caring, terrible at cooking. You would have driven each other crazy and been best friends. Vivian leaned her head on his shoulder. I wish she was here. Wish she could see how Chloe's growing up. Wish I could thank her for the family she left behind. I think she knows. You believe that? I want to believe it. That's close enough. They sat in comfortable silence. Around them, Chicago moved and breathed. The city that had witnessed their grief, their meeting, their slow healing. Teresa asked again about walking Chloe down the aisle. Vivian said. When we get married. What did you say? That it's Chloe's decision. But that I'd be honored. She'll say yes. She loves Teresa. Teresa's teaching her to knit. It's a disaster. So much tangled yarn. Like grandmother, like granddaughter. Vivian smiled. I've been thinking about names. After we're married, you don't have to change yours. Reed is fine. I know. But I want to. Want to be Vivian Hart. Like Aurora was. Like Chloe is. I want us all to match. Daniel's throat tightened. Are you sure? Very sure. Is that okay? More than okay. Chloe appeared again, this time with a dandelion. Make a wish, Aunt Viv. Vivian took the flower. What should I wish for? Happy things. That's what Mommy would want. She said it so simply, so confidently. Chloe had integrated her mother's memory and her aunt's presence without contradiction. To her, it was natural to have both. Vivian blew on the dandelion, seeds scattered in the wind. What did you wish? Chloe demanded. That was secret, Vivian said. But I'll tell you this much, it already came true. Chloe seemed satisfied with this. She ran off to collect more dandelions. What did you really wish? Daniel asked. That this lasts, that we get to grow old together, that Chloe gets to have a full, happy life. All the things Aurora wanted and didn't get. Those are good wishes. Think they'll come true? I think we'll do everything we can to make them come true. That's all anyone can do. As the afternoon wore on, they walked through the park. Past the Crown Fountain, where children played in the shallow water despite the cool temperature. Past the Lurie Garden, just beginning to bloom. Past all the places that held memories of grief and new beginnings. At 4 o'clock, they headed to Teresa's apartment in Lakeview. She'd moved to Chicago 6 months ago, wanting to be closer to Chloe. Her apartment was small but cozy, filled with photos of Aurora as a baby, photos of Vivian growing up, photos of the new family they'd built together. Teresa answered the door with flour in her hair. I made cookies. Are they burned? Chloe asked, hopefully. Only a little. They sat around Teresa's small table, eating slightly charred chocolate chip cookies and drinking milk. Teresa had gotten better at baking, but not much. The cookies were overdone on the edges, underdone in the middle. They were perfect. I have something for you, Teresa said to Chloe. She pulled out a small box. It was your mother's. From when she was a baby. I kept it all these years. Inside was a silver bracelet, tiny, meant for an infant's wrist, engraved with Aurora in delicate script. There's a matching one, Teresa continued. For Victoria, for Vivian. I kept both of them after the adoption. Thought maybe someday. She trailed off, but they understood. Someday had come. just not how she'd imagined. "Can I wear it?" Chloe asked. "It's too small for you now, but we can keep it safe until you're older. A piece of your mother to hold on to." Chloe touched the bracelet reverently. "Did Mommy wear this?" "For the first 3 months of her life." "Then I'll keep it safe for when I have a baby, so they can wear it too." Teresa's eyes filled with tears. Daniel squeezed her hand. Later, after cookies and stories and Chloe's detailed explanation of her latest school project, they prepared to leave. "Stay," Teresa said. "Just a bit longer. It gets quiet here when you go." So they stayed, watched a movie together, all 4 of them on Teresa's small couch. Chloe fell asleep halfway through, head on Vivian's lap. Daniel looked around Teresa's apartment, at the photos on the walls, at the knitting projects in various states of completion, at the life this woman had built from the wreckage of her teenage mistakes. "Thank you," he said quietly. Teresa looked up. "For giving me this, all of this. If you hadn't given Aurora up for adoption, I never would have met her. Chloe wouldn't exist, and somehow, in the strangest way, you gave me Vivian too." "I gave you girls away," Teresa said bitterly. "That's all I did. You gave them the chance at life. Everything that came after that's your legacy too." Teresa wiped her eyes. "I hope so. I need to believe it wasn't all for nothing." "It wasn't," Vivian said firmly. "Look around. Look at what exists because of your choices. It's not nothing. It's everything." They left as the sun set, Chloe sleepy in Daniel's arms. Driving home through the city streets, Vivian reached over and took his hand. "I love you," she said. "I love you too. No ghosts? One ghost?" But she's smiling. "I think. Yeah. I think so too." At home, they tucked Chloe into bed. She clutched both Mr. Whiskers and Aurora's baby bracelet. "Good night, sweetheart," Daniel whispered. "Night, Daddy. Night, Aunt Viv." A pause. "Night, Mommy in heaven." Vivian pressed a kiss to Chloe's forehead. "Sweet dreams, little one." In their own bedroom, still strange to call it theirs, but getting more familiar each day, Daniel and Vivian prepared for sleep. On the nightstand, a photo from their engagement. Daniel, Vivian, and Chloe at the zoo, all laughing at something. Next to it, the photo of Aurora holding newborn Chloe, both photos, side by side, existing without contradiction. "Do you think she'd approve?" Vivian asked, looking at Aurora's photo. "I think she'd be relieved. That Chloe is loved. That I'm not alone. That you found your family, even though that family is complicated, especially because it's complicated. Nothing worth having is simple." Vivian climbed into bed. Daniel joined her, pulling her close. Outside, the first warm rain of spring began to fall. Not the heavy snow of their first meeting, not the bitter cold of grief, just gentle rain, washing everything clean. "Daniel," Vivian whispered in the dark. "Yeah? Thank you for finding me, even though I fired you. Even though it was messy. Thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to show up. For not giving up when it got hard. I'll never give up on this. On us. Me neither." They fell asleep, tangled together, the rain steady against the windows. In the next room, Chloe dreamed of butterflies and mermaids and her mother's smile. The apartment was warm. The family was whole. And somewhere, somehow, Aurora was smiling too. Because love doesn't run out. It multiplies. It heals. It continues. Even after everything. Especially after everything. The snow had melted. Spring had come. And they were, all of them, finally home.